First story. I abused my son, called him a freeloader, then went backdoor at his workplace Target, took stuff already picked up in the cart, and told my son to deal with it. And my entitled son humiliated me. So I reported him and punished him at my house, and demanded he quit his job and stop the independent crap. But he abandoned me. Now I'm regretting it and shocked at how far my ungrateful son can stoop. This happened 2 days ago, and my son is still acting cold towards me. I'm honestly at a loss here, because I really don't think I did anything wrong. I was trying to shop like any normal person, and the way he reacted was completely uncalled for. I'll lay out the whole story, and I'm open to hearing if I somehow crossed a line, though from where I stand, I was completely in the right. For context, I'm 43F, and my son is 18. He's in his first year of college and started working at Target a few months ago. It's his first real job, and he takes it very seriously, like almost too seriously. I know that sounds dismissive, but this has been kind of a theme lately, him suddenly acting like he's on some moral high ground because he's independent now. There's been tension before, like him correcting me in front of other people over minor things or acting embarrassed by how I talk to waiters or store clerks. It's like he's suddenly above me, and it rubs me the wrong way sometimes. Anyway, I went to Target to pick up some new fall clothes and a few household items. There was a very specific cardigan I saw online that I wanted to try on in store before buying. I didn't see it on any of the shelves, and one of the stockroom doors near the clothing section was slightly open. There were a couple of employees back there walking around. No signs saying, employees only. And honestly, I've seen people go into those areas before when looking for help or asking about an item. It didn't look locked or restricted. So I peeked in. Right there in one of the aisles was my son, pushing a large gray cart filled with inventory. And right on top of that cart was the exact cardigan I had come for my size, too. I said, "Hey, that's exactly what I was looking for," and went ahead and grabbed it off the cart. The second he saw me, he dropped his clipboard and snapped at me. I'm not exaggerating, he didn't even say, "Hi." Just barked out, "You can't be back here. That's not for you. That's part of an order." I kind of laughed it off and said, "Well, it's not like you're shopping, this is for customers, and I am one. I've been looking all over the store for this. There's only one here, and it's literally in my size." He told me again, more aggressively this time, to put it back, and that I was not allowed in the back room. I asked, "Why not? It's not like I'm stealing it. It's still inside the store, and I'm literally trying to give you money for it." He said it was already picked for an online order. I asked him whose order it was, and he couldn't answer me. That's when I started getting annoyed. I told him if he couldn't even say who it was for, then there's no reason I shouldn't be allowed to buy it. It's not like the customer is even in the building. First come, first served, right? He stood in front of me and refused to let me leave the stock area with it. Just stood there like some kind of mall cop, glaring and blocking my way. It was honestly so ridiculous I laughed in his face. I told him to move, and that he was being ridiculous, and he doubled down, saying he could get in trouble. I told him, "No one's going to fire you because your mum bought a damn sweater." He wasn't hearing it. He called over another employee, who went to get a supervisor. At this point, I was mad. I felt humiliated, like my own kid was trying to make an example out of me in front of his coworkers just to feel like he had some authority. When the supervisor arrived, some guy in his late 20s, seemed annoyed but polite. My son started complaining that I had entered unauthorized areas and was tampering with merchandise set aside for a guest. I clarified that there were no signs saying it was restricted, and that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I literally just wanted to buy an item from inside the store. The supervisor asked me to return the item and step out of the stock area. I told him I would return to the store floor, but I wanted to speak to someone higher up. He said the store manager wasn't available, but I could file a complaint, so that's what I did. I filled out a form at the guest service desk and explained that I was a paying customer trying to purchase something, and instead I was blocked by an employee, my son, who seemed to be escalating a situation unnecessarily and being incredibly disrespectful. Later that night, my son came home furious. He told me he got written up and talked down to in front of his coworkers by his department lead because they'd taken my complaint seriously. He said he had to explain the whole situation to multiple people, and that it made him look bad. I told him maybe he needed that. He's been walking around like he knows everything lately, and maybe this was a good reminder that being rude and unprofessional, even to your own mother, has consequences. He didn't say anything after that. Since then, he's barely spoken to me, except to say he's disappointed and can't believe I'd do that to him at work. Do what to him? Try to buy a sweater? And just for the record, I didn't get the cardigan in the end. They said I couldn't buy it because it was already reserved and refused to locate another one. So I left empty-handed and got treated like some sort of criminal by my own kid. The more I think about it, the more frustrated I get. I don't think I crossed any serious line. I didn't curse, scream, or make a scene. I didn't go through boxes or damage property. I saw an item that was clearly on a cart headed for the floor or some kind of pickup shelf, and I tried to buy it like any normal person would. But the way my son flipped out, it felt personal. This wasn't just about store policy. This was about him wanting to draw some hard line between his world and me, like I'm an embarrassment or some overstepping parent. And if that's what this is really about, then I'm even more sure that this little dose of reality from his job was needed. He keeps saying things like, "You undermined me," and "You didn't respect my job." I asked him straight up how trying to buy something makes me the villain here. He couldn't answer that without looping back to some company policy about fulfillment carts and customer orders. I told him again. The item was in the store, on a cart, in the open, and I had every right to pick it up and take it to the register. He wasn't even halfway to the pickup shelf. And even if it was set aside, no one had paid for it yet. If it's not paid for, it's not taken. That's common sense. Let's be honest, most people wouldn't have even known he worked there. If it were any other employee who wasn't related to me, they might have just said, "Hey, that's for an order," and moved on. But because it was me, he felt the need to over-enforce something and make it into a confrontation. I've noticed this shift in his behavior ever since he started earning his own money. It's like he's constantly trying to prove something now, especially to me. Every little thing becomes a lecture or a teaching moment. I raised this kid for 18 years. I paid for every damn thing he owns, including his gas, his phone, and even his textbooks. But now, because he has a red shirt and name badge, I'm suddenly not allowed to touch something unless he gives permission. He's still refusing to talk to me. Gave me the silent treatment all of yesterday. This morning, he left without saying a word. My husband, for what it's worth, is trying to stay out of it. He said I probably shouldn't have gone into the back, but then admitted that the son's reaction was over the top and embarrassing. So I'm not crazy here. Even my own husband sees that this wasn't some egregious violation. I've tried to think about it from my son's point of view. I get that he wants to do a good job. I get that he's trying to be professional. But what he fails to understand is that there's a difference between following rules and humiliating your own parent in public. He could have pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I know you want this, but I'll ask if there's another one." Or, "Let me talk to my lead about how to handle it." But no, he jumped straight to yelling and tattling. After the complaint I filed, I got a follow-up call from someone in the store's guest experience team. They apologized for the situation and said it would be discussed with the team internally. I didn't bring up that the employee was my son. That part was irrelevant. All I said was that I didn't appreciate being treated like a rule breaker when I was trying to make a purchase. And yes, I said I was upset by how the employee spoke to me. I didn't lie or exaggerate. I gave them the facts. If that results in a verbal warning or a write-up, then maybe it teaches him that acting like a security guard with a superiority complex isn't the way to treat people, especially customers. I've also noticed he didn't mention any of this to his friends or siblings. Almost like he knows he overreacted and doesn't want it getting out. He's usually not shy about ranting to his older cousin or group chat about anything that annoys him. This time, total silence. Which tells me even he isn't 100% sure he handled it right. I didn't tell him to apologize to me, but I do think he owes me one. Not for enforcing policy, but for how he talked to me. I wasn't some stranger grabbing items off a truck. I was his mother, trying to buy something inside a store. And for that, I got snapped at, blocked, and treated like a problem. I've never felt so disrespected by my own child. And to be completely honest, I think the scolding from his boss was a wake-up call he needed. Not everything is black and white. Not every interaction needs to be a strict enforcement of whatever handbook rule you memorized. There's a human side to working retail, something he clearly hasn't grasped yet. So now the house is tense. He barely makes eye contact. I'm not going to grovel to make peace when I know I wasn't in the wrong. If anything, I was patient. I didn't raise my voice. I asked reasonable questions. And yet somehow, I'm the one being iced out like I ruined his life. Maybe he'll cool down eventually. Maybe he won't. But I'm not apologizing for trying to buy something from a store just because my son was on shift and wanted to pull rank. I gave birth to him. I think I'm allowed to walk into a stockroom if the door's wide open and I'm literally holding a wallet in my hand. So here I am, turning to Reddit, because I honestly don't see what I'm supposed to be sorry for. I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't trying to get him in trouble. But he did get scolded, and in my view, he needed that. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. Look, I've worked retail for over 15 years, and let me tell you something, that backroom is not a damn buffet line for you to browse through, because your kid happens to work there. That cart was pulled for a paid or soon-to-be-paid online order. It doesn't matter if your son couldn't quote the name off the top of his head, that stuff is off limits. You walking back there and grabbing it is like someone snatching groceries out of an Instacart driver's cart while they're in line. And don't give me the open door defense. A hospital door might be open, but that doesn't mean you go poke around surgery. Back rooms are restricted, period. This is his job. His livelihood. First job or not, he was following rules that keep people employed. Instead of supporting him, you deliberately undermined him, made it about ego, and then filed a complaint knowing it would bite him. You didn't teach him anything, except that you're willing to jeopardize his work to make a point. Comment 2. So let me get this straight. You walked into a restricted area, grabbed something from a fulfillment cart like a raccoon, then got mad he didn't play along. And your takeaway was, he needed to be humbled. Jesus. You think you're teaching him about reality, but what you actually did was nuke his credibility in his actual real-world environment. His job is literally to enforce those boundaries and make sure orders are fulfilled without interruption. Then you show up, break protocol, and make him look like he can't even manage his own mom. And let's talk optics. You might think this was between you and him, but now every coworker he has knows he got chewed out because mommy filed a complaint. Think that's going to earn him respect? No, he's the kid whose mom threw him under the bus over a goddamn sweater. YTA. And honestly, if I were him, I'd be cutting way more than conversation. Comment 3. I'm a mom too, so I get the feeling of your kid trying to flex some sudden moral authority once they hit 18 and get a job. It's a weird shift. They start seeing you not as the parent who kept them alive, but as someone to police. That said, you massively overstepped here. It stopped being about the cardigan pretty early. This was a control struggle, and you had to win. You didn't just push past a boundary at his workplace, you then escalated it, watched him get written up, and felt good about it. That's where I winced. Your son isn't trying to pull rank. He's trying to develop a sense of identity and responsibility outside your influence. He needs that space, even if it looks rigid or annoying. Instead of modeling grace, you doubled down and called it a lesson. The real lesson? He can't trust his mom to respect his boundaries when she feels disrespected. That's a painful one. Update. I thought the whole thing would cool off in a few days. But no, my son has doubled down, and so have I. First off, I want to address something that's bothering me more than I thought it would. Ever since this started, no one in this house eats my cooking anymore. I stopped offering, of course, after my son gave me the cold shoulder post-Target incident. But it's like they're all making some weird silent protest. He buys his own groceries now and cooks for himself, washes his own clothes, and doesn't touch anything I clean or prepare. My husband doesn't say it out loud, but I can tell he's picking sides too. And I'm not stupid. I know what this is. And honestly, I resent it. Do you know how many years I've kept this household running? I'm the one who made sure everyone was fed, clothed, and clean. And now what? One blow up at a store, and suddenly I'm treated like some invasive species in my own home. My son has gone full self-sufficient. Won't take rides anymore, won't accept anything I buy, won't eat my food, and even disconnected his gaming PC from the family Wi-Fi and is running off his own hotspot. I asked him if that was really necessary, and he said, I don't want to rely on anything that can be taken away. That pissed me off more than I can explain. Taken away. That's the kind of thing you say when someone's abusive. All I did was try to buy something during his shift, and now I'm a threat to his independence. Let's back up a bit. After our fight, I did what I thought was mature. I gave it space. He didn't speak to me, and I didn't press. But then I saw how far he was taking it, acting like some martyr, punishing me with silence while doing this performative adulting act around the house. I had a breaking point. I told him flat out, if you're going to act like a roommate instead of my son, then fine. Don't expect me to cook, clean, or take care of you in any way. Don't expect me to cover gas when you're short. Don't expect me to buy groceries for meals you're not going to eat anyway. I thought that would snap him out of it. It didn't. A few days later, I saw his grade portal open on the kitchen laptop. He'd dropped from a B to a D in one of his classes. I confronted him. I said, you clearly can't balance both school and work. You need to get your priorities straight. I told him he had two options. Either get those grades back up immediately or quit the damn job and focus on school. That's what a responsible parent would say, right? If he was serious about college, then the job had to go. And his response? I'm not quitting. I'm not going to be financially dependent on you again. Ever. Then he walked off. 6 months ago, we had a fight because I walked in from work after a long day and found the fridge nearly empty, no leftovers, just one half-eaten yogurt and a slice of cheese. I snapped and called him a freeloader, telling him he eats everything and contributes nothing. It was mean, and I admitted that later. I apologized. I even cried. But he took it seriously, went out, applied at Target, and suddenly became Mr. Independent. Now, he throws it in my face like a badge of honor. You said I eat your food. Now I don't. What's the problem? The problem is that now no one eats what I cook. I'm a good cook. That's one thing I've always had pride in. And now I feel like I'm just some woman taking up space in a house that doesn't need me. Anyway, last week, I went back to Target not to see him, but because I actually needed a few things. I was near the seasonal section when I spotted a new item that hadn't been stocked on shelves yet. I saw one of the newer girls pushing a cart near the side door, and yes, I did ask if I could check it. She looked nervous but said it was fine. I took what I needed. The items were in better condition. Cleaner, better folds, no hanger marks. Anyone who's worked retail knows stuff gets worse the longer it's out. I know because I worked retail too, back in the day. Not Target, but I've run stock, inventory, and handled sales. I know how this works. Anyway, guess who came around the corner mid-conversation? He saw me talking to the employee, saw me holding an item from the cart, and immediately blew up. Told the girl to go to the back, looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're doing this on purpose now." I said I was shopping. He said I was undermining him. Again. I broke down. Right there. I don't know why it hit me, but it did. I just started crying, not loud sobs, just this weird, quiet release of everything. Some older lady passing by actually stopped and asked if I was okay. Another employee offered to take my cart to the front. That was more kindness than I've gotten from my own son in weeks. Later that day, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I called Target's HR line. I didn't file a formal complaint this time, but I expressed concern about how emotionally rigid my son had become since starting the job. Maybe I wanted someone to talk to. Maybe I wanted to remind him that actions have weight. He found out. And my husband found out. And then he blew up at me. Told me I was sabotaging our son, trying to ruin the one stable thing he had. Said I couldn't stand the fact that someone in the house had built something of their own. I argued right back. Told him he was blind to how entitled our son had become. That he walks around like he's better than everyone now. That he flaunts his money and calls it freedom. That he's acting like he's already outgrown us. I said what I felt. This family acts like it doesn't need me anymore. I'm just furniture in a house where no one eats my food, talks to me unless they want something, or respects the fact that I've held this place together for 2 decades. Yes, I have a temper. Yes, I can be petty. But I'm still his mother. I still deserve some grace in this family. I'm not sabotaging his life. It's a job at Target, not a presidential campaign. He can get another job. He's smart. But he chose this one because it was easy and close, not because it was his dream. Let's not pretend he's irreplaceable. I don't know where this leaves us. He still barely speaks to me. My husband is cold. The house is dead quiet, except for the microwave. But I'm not backing down. I hate everything about how this unfolded. But I also hate feeling like I have to beg for space in my own home. I don't want to be the arsehole. But I'm not going to be the ghost either. Comments. Comment 1. YT a 1000X. And I don't say that lightly. I managed retail for 12 years, and you're exactly the kind of parent that destroys young employees. Your son was doing his damn job. You crossed workplace boundaries twice, and when he enforced policy, you didn't just make it personal, you weaponized your role as a mother to sabotage him professionally. Filing HR complaints over tone. Undermining him with junior staff. Crying in the store for sympathy. You think he's entitled because he doesn't want to eat your food. Lady, he's building a wall to protect himself. You made his job about you. Then punished him when he didn't break rules for you. You need therapy, not Target HR. Comment 2. Oh my God, you are exhausting. Like, genuinely. Do you even hear yourself? No one eats my food, so I'm just furniture. You made your kid's first job about your feelings, tanked his work rep, then called HR like he's your ex-boyfriend, not your son. And the audacity to say a Target job isn't that important. Lady, it was important when you called him a freeloader. Now he's feeding himself and staying out of your fridge, and you're still pissed. Which version of him were you going to be proud of, the obedient one who starves or the independent one who ignores you? Pick a lane. You don't want a son. You want an emotional support dog in a red vest who eats your meatloaf and tells you you're needed. Grow the hell up. Comment 3. I don't think you understand how brutal it is for younger people to constantly have to parent their parents. You claim he's disrespectful and too independent. But all I see is a kid setting boundaries because he had to. You flipped out when he ate your food once and called him a freeloader, so he got a job and fed himself. Then you flipped again when he stopped needing you. You turned motherhood into a job description, and now that no one's using your services, you're spiraling like HR just phased out your role. This is why so many of us are no contact with parents. It's not about one big betrayal. It's the slow erosion of trust when love turns into obligation and guilt tripping. Update. I didn't think things could spiral further. But somehow every attempt I've made to fix this has blown up in my face. I'm writing this update because I literally have no one to talk to. Everyone in my actual life has either turned cold or turned away, and it feels like the only people listening are strangers online. Right after my last post, I went back to Target because we needed toilet paper, detergent, and basic stuff. I tried to avoid my son's department, but I guess word had spread among the staff. A few of them looked at me like they knew exactly who I was. That irritated me. I'm not some criminal. I'm a customer. I didn't do anything wrong that day. I didn't go into the back. I didn't talk to him. I just shopped. But apparently, one of the supervisors recognized me from the incident, and another employee claimed I was hovering too close to the stockroom door. Which I wasn't, but whatever. Long story short, they asked me to leave the store. My son was the one who pointed me out. I know because he wouldn't even look at me while they escorted me out. That moment broke something in me. When I got home, I opened his laptop. Yes, I know I shouldn't have done that, but I was desperate to understand why he was being so cold. I found a Discord chat with a few of his friends. He was venting about all of this, how embarrassed he was at work, how his manager reamed him out after my complaint, and how he basically begged them not to fire him. My own son humiliating himself trying to keep a minimum wage job because of a misunderstanding I was involved in. But what hurt most wasn't the venting. It was the part where he said he couldn't breathe in that house anymore because of me. That he felt controlled, monitored, suffocated. Like I'm some prison guard. I've never done anything but try to keep this household running. When he came home that night, I confronted him. He didn't even deny it. He told me I invaded his privacy, and I said, well, maybe if you talked to me, I wouldn't have to look for information elsewhere. That started a screaming match. He said I was targeting his job, his finances, and his independence. I said if he was so independent, he could start paying rent. And he said, fine. I'm not living here anyway. That was the first sign he was planning to leave. My husband suggested we try therapy, family counseling, to be exact. I told him flat out I wasn't paying someone $200 an hour to hear how everything is my fault. He said that attitude is exactly why our son is pulling away. We didn't talk the rest of the night. The next morning, my son was gone. He'd taken a backpack, his laptop, his chargers, and a few clothes, nothing more. I asked my husband to go talk to him and bring him home, but he tried and came back alone. It didn't work. My husband came back alone. He said our son told him he wasn't coming home until the environment changes. My husband asked what that meant. Our son said, until mom stops trying to control everything. Apparently, he told my husband that he'd rather sleep on a friend's couch than come back. He said living here felt like walking on glass. That crushed me. But I still believed I could fix it. I wrote a long letter to the store. I explained that I didn't mean to cause trouble for my son, that he was a good worker, and that I'd overreacted in the moment. I asked them not to hold anything against him, that he was stressed from school and maybe overwhelmed. I thought I was helping. It backfired instantly. He called me not to thank me, but to yell at me for interfering again. He said my letter made him look unstable at work, like he needed his mother to fight his battles. He said I embarrassed him again. He said the manager pulled him into the office to check on his home life. He said everyone at work now thinks he's dealing with a controlling parent. He told me, if your goal was to make sure I never show my face there comfortably again, congrats. Then he hung up. My husband came home later, furious. Apparently, our son called him directly afterwards, telling him he was moving out permanently. My husband snapped at me full volume, something he's never done in years of marriage. Said I drove our son away, that I crossed every boundary, that I couldn't stand to see him grow up. I yelled right back and said they were both ungrateful, that after everything I sacrificed, I don't even get basic loyalty. He slept in the guest room. He still is. My son officially moved out the next day. Took the rest of his clothes. Didn't look at me. Didn't speak. My husband helped him carry his things. That hurt more than I want to admit. So now it's quiet. Too quiet. I walk past his room, and it feels like someone died. I keep cooking out of habit, then end up throwing it away because no one eats it. The house feels like a museum of things I used to matter in. I'm scared, honestly. Scared I'm going to die alone. Scared my son's going to build a life without me in it. I keep telling myself family are supposed to support each other, not abandon each other over one incident. But maybe my family was fake all along. Maybe they never cared the way I cared. And yes, I read the Reddit comments. Some of you were cruel. Some made me cry. But some of you were right about one thing. I don't know how to reach him anymore. And I don't know what to do now. Comments. Comment 1. Sacrifice only matters if it's given, not held like a debt over someone's head. You didn't give him food, shelter, and love out of generosity. You kept receipts. And now that he's trying to function on his own terms, you're calling it betrayal. He got a job. He made his own meals. He stopped relying on you. You saw that independence and tried to crush it with control disguised as concern. The real problem is you based your worth on being needed, not being trusted. And now that he needs distance to breathe, you're unraveling instead of reflecting. Comment 2. I actually feel for you, OP, not because you're right, you're not, but because I see what's underneath this. You're lonely. You're grieving the loss of control, of identity, of being needed. But instead of processing that loss, you tried to assert control over the only place your son felt autonomy, his job, his room, his choices. What's heartbreaking is you really think all your efforts were acts of love. But love without respect feels like control. You taught him to survive without you, and now you're furious that he listened. You need therapy. Not for how to get him back, but for how to build a life that isn't wrapped around controlling other people. Because you can have peace again, but not if your only version of connection is compliance. Comment 3. This whole situation screams unresolved generational baggage. Your son grew up watching you hold sacrifice like a weapon. He learned that love came with strings. So the second he earned some control, money, space, boundaries, he protected it. Hard. And instead of celebrating his growth, you took it personally. You called his boundaries betrayal, his silence disrespect, and his job insignificant. The irony is he did everything you once accused him of not doing: working, paying for food, staying out of your fridge, and you still weren't happy. Why? Because what you really wanted wasn't accountability. It was submission. Second story. Entitled boss fired me and demanded I train the new employee appointed to my position for free. I 28F have worked at a marketing agency for 4 years. Last week my boss called me into a meeting and said they're eliminating my position due to budget cuts. My last day is in 2 months. I was upset, but I get it. Budgets happen. Then he said he needs me to train my replacement before I leave. I said I thought my position was being eliminated. He said it is, but they're hiring someone at a lower salary to absorb some of my responsibilities. So not eliminated. Just replacing me with someone cheaper. Then he said after my official last day, he needs me to be available for transition support for another month or 2. Consulting basically. Helping the new person get up to speed. I asked about payment for this transition period. He said they don't have a budget for that, but it would be good for my professional reputation to leave things in good shape. That future employers would want to see I was a team player during a difficult situation. I said, so you want me to work for free? He said it's not really work. It's just answering questions here and there. I told him no. I'll train someone during my remaining 2 months while I'm getting paid, but after my last day, I'm done. He said that puts them in a difficult position. I said laying me off put me in a difficult position. He said if I don't help with the transition, he can't give me a good reference. I said, is that a threat? He said, no. It's just that references reflect how someone handled their departure. I told him if he's threatening my reference for not working for free after he fires me, then he can forget the 2 months notice. I'll leave at the end of this week. He backtracked and said, let's not be hasty. That he values my contributions and wants this to be amicable. I said, then pay me for the transition period, or don't expect me to do it. He said he'll see what he can do, but can't make promises. Today he sent an email to the team saying I'm leaving, and that Jessica, new hire, will be taking over my accounts. Asked everyone to support Jessica during the transition. Jessica reached out asking when we can start training sessions. She's nice, but she's also getting paid $20K less than what I make to do the same job. My coworker said I should just help her because it's not her fault. That refusing to train her properly screws her over, not the boss. My roommate says, F that, they fired me and want free labor. Now my boss is saying if I don't cooperate with Jessica's training, it shows poor professional judgment. Ada for refusing to do unpaid work after being laid off. Comments. Comment 1. I promise you, this guy's competitors will not be slightly interested in his lack of recommendation. Just leave him out of the picture and ask a coworker. Most companies know you can't exactly count on a boss to give a good recommendation because most people don't tell their boss they are looking. Comment 2. It's illegal for them to ask you to work, even just to answer a few questions after they've terminated your employment. Find out what the consulting work rate is for your position and tell them that is your rate per hour for any questions they have. If the question takes less than an hour, tell them you will still be charging the full hourly rate per question. Write up a contract and have them sign it. Tell them you'll need a 1099 at the end of the year for that work. Also, remember when coming up with the hourly rate to include an amount for the taxes you'll have to pay state, local, and federal, as well as Medicare and SS payroll deductions. If they don't agree to this, tell them they cannot contact you. If they do attempt to have you work without pay, you'll contact the State Department of Labor. I worked in HR. Employers don't always follow the labor laws of the state. Make sure they do. Comment 3. Nope. He's already said he plans to screw you to hold your reference over your head, etc. Do not train anyone. Not before you leave and not after. Do not create training or other documentation. Do not cooperate in any way. Keep showing up and doing the very minimum of your existing day job, only as long as necessary. Honestly, I view the threat to try to force you to work unpaid as constructive termination. You should seek legal advice in your jurisdiction, because I think you might be able to quit tomorrow and collect unemployment immediately. As continuing to work for someone who is threatening you like this is a material adverse change of working conditions. Update. So I told him I'd train her during my paid 2 months, or he could lose the 2 months notice entirely. He sent that email to the team about Jessica taking over my accounts and asked everyone to support the transition. Jessica reached out asking about training sessions. I felt bad because she's actually really nice, and none of this is her fault. But I was still pissed at my boss. I decided to be strategic about it. I trained Jessica on everything during work hours. But I documented everything. Every training session, every email, every question she asked, every resource I gave her. I kept a detailed log with timestamps. I also made sure my boss knew exactly how much time I was spending on training. I'd CC him on emails. Mention in meetings that I spent X hours training Jessica that week. Basically made it very visible how much work goes into training someone. About 3 weeks in, Jessica asks me a question about our client database, and I realize my boss never gave her login credentials. She'd been taking notes, but couldn't actually practice anything. I asked her about it, and she said he told her she'd get access eventually. So Jessica can't actually do the job she's being hired to do, because my boss is too cheap or lazy to set up her accounts. And my last day is in, 5 weeks at this point. I sent my boss an email with Jessica CC'd. Said I've completed training on X, Y, and Z topics, but Jessica needs system access to actually implement any of this. Otherwise, she's just memorizing theory with no practical application. Asked when her accounts would be set up. He replies, asking why this is just coming up now. I forward him the email from week 1 where I asked about Jessica's access, and he said he'd handle it. He never did. Suddenly, he schedules a meeting with me and Jessica. Says he didn't realize training was taking up so much of my time. That my other work has been slipping. I pulled out my log. Showed him I've been working 10-12-hour days to train Jessica and maintain my current projects. Asked which work specifically has been slipping. He couldn't name anything. Because nothing has slipped. I've been busting my arse. Then he says after reviewing the budget, they can actually pay me for 2 weeks of transition support after my end date. Not the month or 2 he originally wanted, but something. I said I'd consider it. Asked what the day rate would be. He said we could discuss that closer to my end date. I said, no, we discuss it now, or I don't agree to anything. We agreed on my current daily rate times 10 days. Got it in writing. Jessica got her system access 2 days later. She's been practicing, and honestly, she's picking it up fast. I actually don't mind training her now that I'm not being taken advantage of. My coworker who said I should just help Jessica told me I was being unnecessarily difficult. But I got paid for extra work, so my last day is in 3 weeks. Jessica will be fine. I have another job lined up that pays more. And I got my boss to admit he was trying to get free labor out of me. So I guess it worked out. Comments. Comment 1. Why the hell are you working 10-12-hour days to keep up? For what? You've already been fired. So what are you trying to prove? Let the ship sink and tell the manager that you've spent all your time training your replacement. I would be training her slowly and let it take up all my office hours and really spend most of my time at the office trying to land a new job. Comment 2. It's good that you are actively not screwing over Jessica, since none of this is her fault or responsibility, but maybe screw your boss over. Have a quiet word with the woman after you leave or just before, and tell her what your salary is, the industry equivalent of her job salary, and how you've been treated. Including that some of their actions were illegal, specifying which. Let her do with that information what she will. Forewarned is forearmed. In a year or two's time, they are going to do the exact thing to her that they did to you. With luck, she'll take what she can get from them. Find herself a new job, and leave your boss high and dry. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.